In Episode 8, Han Li was trapped by Elder Gu and 3 other integration stage cultivators using the Nine Heavens Demon Array to forcibly refine him. He easily broke the array, but was then drawn in by Duan Renli, a great Ascension Stage Elder, into the Crimson Blood Heavenly Ghost banner, a terrifying, sentient treasure. Han Li was forced to use the Thunder Awakening transformation to win, and also conveniently collected 100 Jin of Yin Godstone. After that, relying on the Yin Godstone, Han Li successfully refined the Star Moon Treasure Mirror, then went to Jingyuan Temple to borrow the Star Platform to cultivate the lesser Northern Dipper Star origin art. Everyone, please continue to follow the developments of the next episode. In the Immortal realm, in an unknown sea region, the seawater was pitch black, resembling ink. The black sea surface stretched endlessly, with violent waves surging and extending without end. Above the Black Sea floated hundreds of black mountains, each topped with enormous black octagonal towers. Although these towers varied in height, some reaching tens of thousands of zhong, others only a few hundred zhong, their appearances were identical. Each was entirely black, octagonal in shape, and built like a massive pagoda. On top of one, smaller black tower sat an old Taoist wearing a purple crown, sitting cross-legged. In front of him was a square ritual altar. This was Taoist Tingming. Above the altar floated a white formation, emitting white light. The old Taoist waved his sleeve and struck out a spell seal. The white formation immediately stopped operating. He then stared straight ahead, unmoving, his eyes flickering continuously, as if hesitating about something. After a long while, the old Taoist clenched his teeth. As though he had made a decision, he took out a crystal-clear bead about the size of a finger and tossed it forward. Following another spell seal, it sank into the surface of the bead. Immediately, countless transparent rune chains rose up from it, like crystal. These rune chains condensed into a formation about 1 chi in size. Slowly rotating, after a single breath of time, the formation trembled slightly. But afterward, there was no further change. The old Taoist showed no impatience and calmly waited. After another half of an incense stick's time, the formation finally lit up. A pitch-black miniature figure appeared inside. It was a man dressed in black, with broad shoulders but a withered appearance. His face was yellowish like old parchment, and his entire body looked sickly and frail. Bone Flame Recluse, we have not met for 1,000 years. Fellow Taoist seems even more elegant than before. Taoist Tingming cupped his fists and said with a warm smile. Taoist Tingming, if you have something to say, make it brief, Bone Flame Recluse said impatiently, showing no courtesy. Is fellow Taoist currently in Blackwater City? I have a great opportunity I wish to share, Taoist Tingming said, withdrawing his smile and speaking mysteriously. Say it, Bone Flame Recluse replied coldly. The arrest warrant from 10 Directions Pavilion, you should have received it, Taoist Tingming said. Bone Flame Recluse raised his eyebrows slightly. What do you mean? Do you know his whereabouts? That's right. This person is currently in the Spirit Ring realm, Bone Flame Recluse replied. Taoist Tingming's eyes flashed with bright light. This is shocking news. Is it true? Bone Flame Recluse's expression tightened slightly. Is it true or false? Fellow Taoist only needs to contact your disciples in the lower realm. You will know very soon. Taoist Tingming stroked his beard and nodded, smiling with satisfaction. From what you say, could it be that you want... Exactly, Bone Flame Recluse interrupted. That person is hiding in this realm. This is a once-in-a-thousand-years opportunity. You and I join forces, our 2 sects act together, capture him, and claim the bounty from 10 Directions Pavilion. How about it? Taoist Tingming chuckled darkly. If he is wanted by 10 Directions Pavilion, his strength is certainly not weak. Even if suppressed by the power of the realm, he is not someone a few great Ascension cultivators can deal with so easily. Fellow Taoist can rest assured, Bone Flame Recluse said calmly. According to the information I have, this person is seriously injured. His strength has greatly declined. At most, he is only a few times stronger than an ordinary Great Ascension cultivator. Taoist Tingming waved his hand slightly. Let disciples in the lower realm deal with a true immortal. This action is somewhat risky. It would be better to wait until he leaves the Spirit Ring realm than we personally take action. Bone Flame Recluse fell silent for a moment, then said, I believe this matter should be done sooner rather than later. Delay may invite unforeseen changes. 10 Directions Pavilion offering such an enormous bounty shows that this person must possess a great secret. Even without such a reward, it would still be worth the gamble. Taoist Tingming spoke slowly, his words filled with temptation. Bone Flame Recluse remained silent, his eyes flickering, seemingly persuaded. After a while, he finally spoke. Very well, I will remember this. If everything is as you say, our 2 sects will act together. As for the specifics, wait until I return to Blackwater City, then we will discuss it further. Wise choice, Brother Flame, Taoist Tingming said with a smile. Several days later, in the Spirit Ring realm, deep within Jingyuan Temple, there was a grand hall. The hall was empty, with only a white jade platform in the center, On it was a teleportation formation, several jang in size, currently operating and emitting dazzling white light. Taoist Heshan stood beside the formation, expressionless, as if waiting for something. Soon, the white light from the teleportation formation suddenly contracted. Rings of runes appeared around it, drifting and dancing, splitting into strands of brilliant light. Two figures appeared within the glow, one tall and one short. When the light receded, the shorter figure was revealed to be a bald old man in black robes, hands clasped behind his back slightly hunched, not even reaching the shoulder of the other person. The other figure had a dark complexion, like charcoal, emitting a chilling aura that was hard to describe. He was a middle-aged man with refined features, Duan Renli. Fellow Taoists Du and Duan, your arrival at Jingyuan Temple truly honors us. We have not met for many years. Both of you still carry the same bearing as before. Especially fellow Taoist Du, your cultivation seems to have advanced greatly. This is truly worth celebrating, Taoist Heshan said, clasping his hands and smiling. The bald old man was another great ascension cultivator of the Heavenly Ghost sect. His cultivation was the highest in the sect, and he was praised as the #1 cultivator in the entire Spirit Ring realm. However, he had an eccentric temperament and rarely stayed within the sect. No one knew where he usually resided. He merely nodded slightly at Taoist Heshan as a greeting. Taoist Heshan, it has been a long time. Duan Renli returned the greeting with a faint smile. This is not a suitable place to talk. Please move to the side hall, Taoist Heshan said. He laughed and gestured invitingly, then led the way. Soon, the three entered a large hall and took their seats as host and guests. Taoist Heshan, where is Han Li currently? Duan Renli asked directly as soon as he sat down. His voice was hoarse and harsh, like metal scraping together, as if he had not spoken to others for a long time. To be honest with you both, this true immortal Han Li is currently cultivating at the Star Platform. Since entering it, he has not left. It has been about half a year now, Taoist Heshan said calmly. He is a dignified true immortal, yet he wants to use the Star Platform. Taoist Heshan, you likely know the reason, Duan Renli said with a start, asking cautiously. I have thought about this many times as well, Taoist Heshan replied. I even had 4 elders of the temple monitor him day and night under the pretext of guarding the law. From the celestial phenomena triggered by his cultivation, he should be cultivating a type of divine ability that requires special stellar spiritual power to temper the body. He paused, then continued. This person's body was already unimaginably powerful. He could even use strange secret techniques to transform into a mountain ape and a blue phoenix. Now that he continues to cultivate his body, could it be that he is a profound immortal? Duan Renli spoke thoughtfully, as if he had already formed some suspicions. Perhaps so, Duan Renli said softly. According to what Ancestor Tingming recounted, this person was seriously injured and lost his immortal body. Now that he is in the Spirit Ring realm, he is also being heavily suppressed. At best, he can barely be considered a half immortal. Taoist Heshan did not offer an opinion, only nodding. Even if he is only a half immortal, an ordinary Great Ascension cultivator cannot be compared to him. We must be extremely cautious. Dong Ren spoke in a deep voice. Fellow Taoist is absolutely right. This matter is of utmost importance and also involves both our sects. We must carefully consider a plan that balances strength and reason. That is precisely why I invited the two of you here. Taoist Heshan's expression grew solemn, and he nodded. After all, this is Taoist Heshan's territory. For this operation, you should already have a plan in mind. I am willing to hear your wise counsel. Dong Ren looked at Taoist Heshan with a meaningful gaze. You are too polite, fellow Taoist. I only have some preliminary thoughts. We will still need the two of you to supplement them considerably. Taoist Heshan chuckled softly. Late at night, within Jingyuan Temple, everything was silent. All the pavilions and towers were shrouded in darkness. Only the peak of Nine Palaces Peak was brightly lit like daytime. 6 enormous beams of light hung down from the starry sky. The white light flickered and seemed to gradually diminish, turning into scattered points of silver light that dissipated. The entire star platform was filled with patches of white radiance, like mist. At the top of the platform, Han Li sat cross-legged with his eyes closed. His entire body was translucent, with silver light flowing through his skin. His body emitted a metallic sheen, and every muscle looked as hard as refined steel. On his chest and abdomen, 6 blue points of light flickered erratically, dazzling to the eye. At this moment, 6 streams of black light scattered and flew out from the light pillars, gathering together and transforming into ancient-looking black treasure mirrors that entered Han Li's body. After a while, Han Li slowly opened his eyes and let out a sigh. With the support of the Star Moon treasure mirror at the star platform, the 6th layer of the Lesser Northern Dipper star origin art is finally complete. Only one step remains, Han Li murmured to himself. He then stood up and took a single step forward into the void. A loud boom rang out, and the entire star platform shook violently. His body staggered. It was just one step, yet it crushed through a stone stair, sinking it halfway down. Seeing this, Han Li could not help but smile bitterly. He had not expected that, after completing the 6th layer, his body would undergo such a drastic change. Just now, he had not yet grown accustomed to his body, and that single step had unleashed such terrifying destructive force. Fortunately, the hole he stepped into was not within the core area of the star platform and caused no real damage. Otherwise, it would have been difficult to explain. Thinking of this, he subconsciously reached up to rub his nose. The 4 elders of Jingyuan Temple sensed the violent disturbance and were startled. 3 of them immediately looked toward the integration stage, old man. "It's nothing. Don't take it to heart," the white-bearded old man said after briefly assessing the situation, transmitting his voice to the others. Ever since Han Li came here to cultivate, he had already grown accustomed to the disturbances caused by someone whose physical strength rivaled that of a great ascension cultivator. Someone who could pour massive, stellar spiritual power into body refinement. What could he not do? Moreover, the Supreme Grand Elder had ordered him to strictly monitor this person and to avoid any contact with him on the star platform. Han Li took a deep breath, flipped his wrist, and took out a gray shield about 2 chi long. This shield had been obtained during the chaotic battle at the Heavenly Ghost Sect and was a defensive treasure. Unfortunately for a certain body-refining cultivator, the shield was made of iron mixed with a small amount of refined crystal. Its surface was engraved with many profound runes, with flowing light upon it, clearly of no low grade. Han Li injected a bit of spiritual power into the shield, causing the outer light to flicker as all the hidden restrictions were activated. Next, he held the shield with both hands and raised it high. With a dull sound, the light on the shield's surface dimmed. Then, loud cracking sounds rang out. The entire black shield twisted and deformed, like a clay sculpture being wrung apart. Seeing this, Han Li felt joy in his heart. According to his estimate, his physical strength had now doubled compared to his body at the peak stage previously. He raised his head to look at the sky, his mood gradually calming. He once again sat down on the Northern Dipper 7-star diagram, closed his eyes, and regulated his breathing. About an hour later, Han Li formed spell seals with his fingers and continued chanting the incantation for the 7th layer of the Lesser Northern Dipper star origin art. Deep in the sky, the Northern Dipper 7 stars suddenly brightened, emitting radiance distinct from the surrounding constellations. The light was silver, alternately bright and dim. This time, 7 thick silver pillars of light descended from the sky like solid matter, crashing down onto the star platform. On the platform, all the star diagrams almost simultaneously burst forth with dazzling silver light. From afar, the entire platform looked as though it were covered in a layer of milky silver. A thunderous roar echoed as the entire 9 Palaces peak shook violently. Vast waves of silver light swept outward, carrying a momentum several times greater than before. The silver radiance spiraled wildly around the platform. The protective light barrier around the star platform was instantly torn apart by this raging stellar force, shattering into countless points of golden light that vanished. The 4 elders stationed there were caught completely unprepared. One Refinement Void Stage Elder was even blasted away and sent flying. The Integration Stage Elder sensed the danger early and hurriedly activated several defensive treasures, barely withstanding the impact of the stellar force. He retreated more than 100 jang before stabilizing himself in midair, looking toward 9 Palaces peak with shock and fear filling his eyes. At the same time, on the peak of a distant mountain several hundred li away, 3 Taoist figures stood side by side. They were Taoist Heshan, Dongren, and Duan Renli. At this moment, all 3 were looking up at the vast night sky. In the distance, a dazzling beam of white light shot straight upward. That direction was precisely where 9 Palaces peak was located. None of them spoke. Apart from the occasional gentle mountain breeze that made their robes flutter, everything around them was deathly silent. The atmosphere was heavy and tense. After a long while, the silence was finally broken. Taoist Haitian, do you call this a perfect strategy? Just letting this person cultivate peacefully and allowing his strength to increase so dramatically? Duan Renli slowly asked. I failed to consider things thoroughly, Taoist Heshan replied with a helpless sigh. It seems he has already found a way to restore his former strength. This matter cannot be delayed any longer, Dongren said coldly. Fellow Taoist is right, Taoist Heshan said in a low voice. We had already made preparations. We only wanted to think things through a bit more carefully. But now, we truly cannot wait any longer. Duan Renli muttered softly, clenching his fists inside his sleeves, his eyes glowing with a hint of excitement. Early the next morning, behind Sacred Fire Peak at Cold Flame Sect, inside a small courtyard with green-tiled roofs and bamboo groves, Sima Jingming stood with his hands clasped before a table. Sandalwood incense curled in the air. On the wall hung 3 portraits, before which he was respectfully reporting something. At this moment, light flowed across one of the portraits, and a Taoist figure appeared, suspended in mid-air. He had a dignified face and bright eyes. It was Ancestor Cold Flame. You say that Han Li has already begun cultivating the 7th layer of the technique? Ancestor Cold Flame asked slowly with a light cough. Judging from yesterday's celestial phenomenon, that should indeed be the case, Sima Jingming replied, first affirming, then hesitating slightly. Ancestor, what exactly is this person's background? Such a cultivation speed is truly unimaginable. Hey, Ancestor Cold Flame chuckled. As for his background, I'm not entirely sure. But I have just learned that this fellow Taoist Han is currently being hunted by a major organization in the Immortal realm. The bounty is enormous, to the point that even I am somewhat tempted. Taoist Tingming has secluded himself for years and never appeared. Yet recently, he has set out for Blackwater City to meet Bone Flame Recluse. From what I can see, the Heavenly Ghost Sect and Jingyuan Temple no longer wish to remain idle. Ancestor Cold Flame let out a slow, measured laugh. So, does that mean we should... Sima Jingming was startled upon hearing this, and a strange expression immediately appeared on his face. Should we also follow along with the calculations of those two sects and come over to get a share of the benefits, he asked? Ancestor Cold Flame directly cut him off. Sima Jingming realized he had misspoken and hurriedly shut his mouth. This fellow Taoist Han, Ancestor Cold Flame continued, neither Taoist Tingming nor that old ghost Bone Flame has personally confronted him, but I myself have once exchanged blows with this person. He is absolutely not simple. Just now, hearing you say that he has already cultivated the 6th layer of the Lesser Northern Dipper Star Origin art only makes me more certain of this. Although the benefits are tempting, one must also have the life to enjoy them. Ancestor Cold Flame spoke with deep meaning. I will heed your instructions, Sima Jingming replied hurriedly. Late at night, atop the star platform, Han Li sat cross-legged, his entire body immersed at the center of the silver vortex formed by the 7 descending silver light pillars. Vast stellar power poured into his body from all directions every moment, tempering his flesh. His body remained completely motionless, but inwardly he used a method of dual-focus concentration to think about recent events. The cultivation of the Lesser Northern Dipper Star Origin art had triggered astonishing celestial phenomena. The violent stellar power swept downward, shattering the protective restrictions around the star platform and blasting away the 4 elders of Jingyuan Temple. Yet, after leaving, they did not reappear. Taoist Heishan showed no concern at all about this matter, appearing overly at ease with him. This alone was not particularly strange. But recently, Han Li had clearly sensed that within a radius of more than 10 Li around the star platform, cultivators of Jingyuan Temple had unexpectedly left their cave dwellings one after another and had not returned. At first, he did not think much of it. After all, it was normal for sect members to travel or carry out long-term missions. However, this situation continued to occur, eventually drawing his attention and increasing his vigilance. Just now, for some unknown reason, he felt a vague unease in his heart, an ominous feeling quietly stirring. After thinking for a moment, Han Li reduced a portion of the descending stellar power, then used his spiritual sense to quickly probe everything within a few hundred Li. At this moment, the void above suddenly blurred. Then, an extremely long silver-white rift silently appeared, as if tearing the surrounding sky in two. Dense silver runes poured endlessly from the rift. As soon as they emerged, they spun rapidly and transformed into halos of light. Surrounding a silver moon, they gradually revealed it, almost bleaching the surrounding space white. The silver halos merged together, condensing into an enormous silver moon, radiating incomparably powerful brilliance that dimmed everything around it. Though it sounds lengthy, all of this happened in an instant. The moment the gigantic silver moon formed and filled the sky with light, all starlight vanished. Seeing this, Han Li said nothing. His figure flashed, and in an instant he left the area of 9 Palaces Peak. After a few flickers, he was already 200 or 300 Li away. At this moment, another sudden change occurred. Dozens of Li outside 9 Palaces Peak. With a loud boom, a massive stone sank downward. A gigantic white rune, hundreds of zhang in size, appeared on its surface and released a thick white beam of light that shot straight toward the horizon. Immediately after, another direction of the mountain shook violently, and a colossal green beam of light soared upward. Booming explosions rang out in succession. Within a radius of several hundred Li centered on 9 Palaces Peak, explosions erupted simultaneously. Enormous pillars of light of various colors shot out from runes in all directions. Multicolored runes appeared around the beams, then rapidly connected together. In the blink of an eye, they condensed into an enormous light screen, centered on 9 Palaces Peak and enveloping an area of hundreds of Li. On the light screen, runes of every color flowed ceaselessly, emitting sharp, bizarre hissing sounds. Even from far away, one could feel the terrifying fluctuations of spiritual power emanating from it. Inside the light screen, in a certain spot in the void, Han Li withdrew his escape light and stopped. His heart sank slightly. Although he did not know what Jingyuan Temple was plotting, it seemed that they had finally developed hostile intent toward him. He scanned his surroundings, a layer of blue light appearing in his eyes. However, his brows soon knit together. This massive restriction was profound and unfathomable, far surpassing the Ghost King Heavenly Pillar array of the Heavenly Ghost sect from before. With his knowledge, he could not discern any weakness in a short time. Without hesitation, Han Li shot forward and instantly arrived before the 5-colored light screen. 6 blue light clusters at his chest and abdomen flashed simultaneously, and he violently struck one point on the screen. A world-shaking roar erupted. The surface of the light screen trembled violently as brilliant light surged, revealing a massive fist-shaped depression. Around the depression, dense multicolored runes rushed in, and the speed of its recovery was visible to the naked eye. Before it could fully recover, another punch struck the exact same spot. The light screen shook violently, as if it would shatter in the next moment. Just as Han Li's third punch was about to land, the enormous silver moon in midair suddenly flared brilliantly. From within the boundless silver radiance, countless silver runes surged out and converged into a gigantic pillar of light that covered an area of hundreds of li. Han Li only felt a flash of silver light before his vision returned to normal. However, he found that he had appeared in a completely unfamiliar world. This was a vast, desolate silver wasteland. No matter which direction he looked, there was only endless barrenness. The ground was covered everywhere with massive gray stones, and from time to time there were enormous deep pits, seemingly formed by meteor impacts. The sky was filled with dense gray clouds hanging extremely low, as if they could press down at any moment, giving a powerful sense of oppression. Another cave-type treasure, Han Li muttered to himself. He immediately released his spiritual sense. Everywhere it passed, there was nothing but barren ground, deep pits, and giant stones. Nothing else existed. After thinking for a moment, he condensed his spiritual sense and probed into the gray clouds. However, as soon as it entered, he felt extreme resistance and chaos in all directions. Even when he activated his spirit-refining technique, he could only barely sense a range of slightly more than 10 jang. The general situation remained the same. Whatever these gray clouds were, even with his powerful spiritual sense, he could not fully penetrate them. Han Li's eyes flickered. Just as he withdrew his spiritual sense and was about to use other methods to investigate the gray clouds above, they suddenly began to churn violently with a deep, rumbling sound. In the next moment, streaks of yellow light fell from the sky like rain. Each streak, upon hitting the ground, rose into a sphere that rapidly expanded and vaguely took shape, transforming into a golden, shimmering, muscular man. These figures looked not much different from ordinary people, with golden skin that gleamed faintly with flowing golden light. They wore yellow cloth around their waists and held various weapons in their hands, looking exactly like the legendary Yellow Turban strongmen. Although they appeared similar to ordinary humans, their bodies carried no trace of living aura. Their expressions were stiff and lifeless, like puppets. In just a short while, nearly 1,000 of these strongmen appeared all around, as dense as an army, completely surrounding Han Li at the center. This unexpected scene caused Han Li to freeze slightly. The bodies of the Yellow Turban strongmen were extremely agile, holding various weapons such as sabers, spears, swords, and axes. They all descended from midair. Their feet struck the ground as they leapt up like giant golden birds, then charged forward at full speed, producing deafening buzzing sounds. In an instant, the army of strongmen surged in from all directions, blotting out the sky as they attacked Han Li in a terrifying display of force. Han Li remained standing in place, calmly observing his surroundings. A moment later, the first Yellow Turban strongman charged in, the long spear in its hand thrust forward, transforming into layers of spear images that emitted piercing shrieks and covered more than half of Han Li's body. Han Li frowned slightly. Not only did he not retreat, he instead rushed straight toward the spear images. Suddenly, extending his hand, he seized the spear with lightning speed. A tremendous force surged from his arm, causing the strongman's body to tremble, though it quickly managed to steady itself. This surprised Han Li somewhat. The strength of the Yellow Turban strongman was indeed astonishing. He pulled hard backward with the arm gripping the spear, immediately causing the strongman to stagger. Han Li's other hand swung out in a punch. With a loud crack, the spear was torn from the strongman's grasp. The strongman's body was sent flying backward, crashing into more than 10 other Yellow Turban strongmen before finally coming to a stop. The strongman flipped over and stood up again. A fist-shaped depression appeared on its chest. Its movements were slightly slower than before, but it still stubbornly joined forces with the others and continued charging toward Han Li. Han Li casually threw the spear in his hand backward, knocking away a group of strongmen. When he turned his head and saw this, his eyes narrowed. Earlier, that punch had used 50% of his strength, enough to shatter a mountain peak, yet it had not killed a single Yellow Turban strongman. At this moment, Large numbers of yellow turban strongmen crowded forward. Han Li snorted coldly. His footsteps shifted, his body leaving behind successive afterimages as he moved. At the same time, both fists swung, suddenly becoming a blur. Countless fist shadows appeared, striking in all directions. With a series of loud booms, each yellow turban strongman was struck with a deep fist mark in the chest and blasted backward, crashing into those behind them and collapsing into a heap. Their fierce momentum finally slowed for a moment. The strongmen behind, who had fallen to the ground, flipped over and stood up again. Han Li's gaze turned icy. His figure flashed, appearing in front of the yellow turban strongman that had just been knocked away. Without hesitation, he struck another punch directly into the existing fist mark on one strongman's chest. Crackling sounds rang out. The yellow turban strongman's body trembled violently as cracks appeared across its surface. Streams of golden light burst out from within. With a thunderous crash, its body shattered, turning into golden mist that scattered through the air. Han Li paused briefly. Although the bodies of the yellow turban puppets were extremely hard, they were not impossible to destroy. The surrounding yellow turban strongmen once again surged forward like a tide. Han Li took a light breath. Blue light flashed at his chest and abdomen, revealing 6 points of light. His body expanded explosively with power. He swayed left and right, splitting into several vague afterimages. With a series of loud impacts, the bodies of 7 or 8 yellow turban strongmen in front were flung backward and immediately exploded. Han Li's arms moved like a whirlwind. Wherever they passed, dense fist shadows appeared. Violent sounds exploded continuously. All the strongmen within several dozen jang around him were blasted away, their bodies shattering one after another and turning into drifting golden mist. No matter how hard their bodies were, under the power of the lesser Northern Dipper star origin art, they were utterly insignificant. In a vast, pitch-black sea region of the Immortal realm, gloomy winds howled across the sea surface as black mist filled the air. Enormous turbid waves rose more than 10,000 jang high, endlessly swirling in place. In the densest black mist stood a gigantic black stone city, floating silently above the sea. The city was more than 100 jang tall and nearly 100 li wide. On the main northern gate were carved 3 large ancient characters. Blackwater City. Outside the city, the outer walls were extremely expansive, built from massive black stone blocks that reflected a crystal-like sheen under the sunlight. Inside the city, however, it looked no different from Immortal City. There were rivers, farmlands, vegetation, and forests, with roads crisscrossing and shops lining the streets. Countless people moved through the streets like flowing water. The inner city was not flat ground. The closer one got to the center, the higher the terrain became. Buildings grew denser, and palaces and towers became ever more grand. At the highest point of the entire city stood a smaller inner city encircled by a black river that formed a boundary separating it from the outside. Within this inner city were elegant pavilions and towers, as well as quiet, beautiful waterside structures. Artificial rockeries were scattered through the gardens. At the central position stood a vast platform, upon which rose a 3-story pavilion with towering red-painted pillars and interlocking beams. Yellow glazed tiles covered the roof, decorated with exquisitely carved dragons and phoenixes. On the top floor, all 4 sides of the windows were open, offering an extremely broad view. One could take in not only the scenery of the inner city, but also a large stretch of the Black Sea beyond the outer city at a glance. Inside the pavilion, the furnishings were very simple. In the center was a square tea table, beside which lay a round silk meditation cushion. On the tea table sat a dark red bronze incense burner shaped like a mythical beast, with green smoke curling upward and filling the room with fragrance. On the cushion to the right sat a thin old man with gray-white hair and beard. He wore an official hat adorned with a purple lotus. Sitting cross-legged, he held a small, exquisite teacup and sipped gently. The tea inside was a jade green color, more beautiful than fine emerald. Its fragrance was faint, overshadowed by the sandalwood scent, but once in the mouth, the taste was extremely delicate, with rich spiritual energy that made one feel exceptionally comfortable. The thin old man slowly set down the teacup and praised sincerely. Bone Flame, this Blackwater spirit tea, truly lives up to its reputation. Taoist Tingming flatters it, replied the broad-shouldered man, with a sallow, waxen face and a withered appearance, speaking indifferently. In the past, due to sect restrictions in the lower realm, Brother Flame and I rarely interacted. In the future, we should cooperate more often and develop together. Taoist Tingming's face revealed a warm smile. If we can capture that person this time, we will naturally cooperate in uncovering the secrets he may be hiding. Bone Flame Recluse nodded, then continued. What exactly is this person's background? Have you uncovered anything, Brother Flame? Taoist Tingming's expression turned serious as he asked. After receiving information from fellow Taoist, I investigated, but obtained no useful results. And you? Have you discovered anything? Boneflame Recluse shook his head. The same as you. I could not find any detailed information. 10 Directions Pavilion revealed very little, only that this person's origins are not small, but the specifics are unclear. Taoist Tingming sighed softly. The more this is the case, the more interested I become in the secret he may be hiding. It seems we can only interrogate him thoroughly. Boneflame Recluse chuckled. Heh, it seems Brother Flame is very confident about capturing him. You must have bestowed some powerful treasure upon your disciples. Taoist Tingming laughed openly. What about you, fellow Taoist? Could it be that you did not provide any means of suppression? Boneflame Recluse shot the thin old man a glance. The old man did not mind and simply laughed lightly. To avoid any mishaps, of course I prepared something, Boneflame Recluse said. Recently, by a fortunate coincidence, I obtained some bean soldiers. Half a month ago, I successfully transformed them into Dao soldiers. This time, they finally came in handy, so I bestowed them upon my subordinates. Seeing that the other party did not wish to elaborate further, Boneflame Recluse did not ask more and spoke casually. The thin old man's expression immediately changed upon hearing this, revealing shock. I didn't expect them to be Dao soldiers. Brother Flame truly has astounding fortune. Such great destiny. They are merely low, third-rank Dao soldiers among the yellow turban Dao soldiers. Nothing worth mentioning, Boneflame Recluse said, waving his sleeve dismissively. However, a trace of pride flashed deep in his eyes. Even low third-rank Dao soldiers far surpass ordinary treasures. With such things, even if that person had 3 heads and 6 arms, he would still be subdued like turning over one's palm. Taoist Tingming said, his voice filled with undisguised envy. Boneflame Recluse smiled without responding. At this moment, Taoist Tingming suddenly thought of something else. He frowned and asked, By the way, this Han Li is nominally still an outer elder of Cold Flame sect. That Cold Flame fellow wouldn't suddenly interfere, would he? If he's not afraid that from now on the Spirit Ring realm will only have 2 top-tier sects left, then he can come and try. Boneflame Recluse said with a cold sneer, his expression turning icy. Taoist Tingming nodded. A faint, cold smile also appeared on his thin face. In a mysterious space, above thick gray clouds, 3 figures stood upright in midair. They were Dong Ren, Taoist Heshan, and Duan Renli. In Duan Renli's hand was a golden gourd, about half a person tall. He muttered incantations under his breath. Rings of golden light lit up across the surface of the gourd, which was densely carved with flickering runes. From the gourd's mouth, countless tiny golden characters poured out, drifting and spreading an extraordinary aura. As Duan Renli continuously chanted obscure and mysterious incantations, golden light swirled at the mouth of the gourd. From within flew out countless golden bean-like objects, which shot downward. As soon as these beans touched the cloud layer, delicate, tiny vortexes appeared and pulled them in, swallowing them without a trace. Could this be the legendary technique of transforming beans into soldiers? I didn't expect your sect to be able to perform such an immortal technique, Taoist Heshan said, looking at the golden gourd in Duan Renli's hand with extreme admiration. Taoist Heshan is indeed knowledgeable, Dong Ren replied calmly. With our shallow cultivation, how could we fully grasp immortal techniques? We merely rely on this immortal treasure bestowed by our ancestor to barely summon a portion of Dao soldiers. So that's how it is. Han Li's body is extremely tough. Ordinary methods are not easy to deal with. Using yellow turban Dao soldiers to strike first and exhaust his strength is a very good move. Taoist Heshan nodded in approval. Combined with Taoist Heshan's cave-type treasure, we can only adapt as the situation demands. Although we have gained some advantage now, whether we can truly subdue him remains uncertain. Perhaps all 3 of us will have to act together, Dong Ren said in a deep voice. It's about time. Taoist Heshan, can you show us what's happening inside? Duan Renli said, stopping his chanting and turning to look at Taoist Heshan. Taoist Heshan nodded and raised his hand. A streak of white light flew out, within which a silver bead the size of a chicken egg was faintly visible. The bead spun once and appeared in the void before the 3. With a soft pop, it burst apart, releasing a mass of silver mist that spread downward and condensed into a large silver mirror 7 or 8 zhang tall. At first, it was blurry, then gradually became clear, revealing an image on its surface. The 3 of them looked at the scene in the mirror, and their expressions immediately changed. Within the image, yellow turban strongmen descended from the sky like a flood, attacking a tall young man in the center from all directions. The young man moved slightly, without using many techniques. Fist shadows shot out in all directions. Wherever the yellow turban strongmen collided with these fist shadows, they were blasted away and exploded into golden light. Within a radius of 10 zhang, none of them could get close to him. From beginning to end, in just a few breaths of time, 70 to 80 yellow turban strongmen had already been shattered. The young man's expression remained calm, his movements unhurried, as if destroying these Dao soldiers consumed almost no effort. Just then, with a soft pop, the silver mirror twisted violently and scattered. turning back into a cloud of silver mist that quickly dissipated. How could this happen? Duan Renli's face looked somewhat unsightly. These yellow-turbaned Dao soldiers may not understand any secret techniques or cultivation methods, but their bodies are extremely hard, comparable to high-level body refiners. If we were surrounded by more than 100 of them, even we would find it difficult to deal with. How could Han Li respond so effortlessly? It seems we have underestimated him, Dong Ren said, frowning. Could it be that his injuries have already recovered? Taoist Heshan spoke in a deep voice, unease rising in his heart. If he could so easily recover to his former state, why would he need to leave the Immortal Realm and come to the Spirit Ring Realm? Things have reached this point. Either we don't act, or if we do, we must finish it. According to our previous plan, the three of us will personally take action to avoid any further complications. Dong Ren spoke coldly. Within the cave-type space, Han Li flashed, narrowly avoiding a pincer attack from several yellow-turban strongmen. His right arm swung slightly, and 7 or 8 fist shadows appeared, each punch striking precisely at the heads of the strongmen. With a series of loud cracks, the heads of all 7 or 8 strongmen exploded. Their bodies flew backward and with a soft pop, turned into golden mist. The entire sequence of movements flowed smoothly and cleanly. In just a short time, nearly 20 strongmen were shattered. After a period of chaotic fighting, these yellow-turban strongmen were no longer worth his attention. The speed at which he killed them increased, and the number of strongmen around him had already dropped by more than half. Han Li's eyes flickered with blue light as he looked up toward the gray cloud layer, preparing to find some clues. At the same time, each time he acted, he deliberately struck to disrupt the cloud layer, trying to uncover some hidden mechanism. Just then, the yellow light in the sky suddenly stopped. The gray clouds shook violently and split open, forming a massive hole more than 10 jang wide. From within descended 3 streaks of escape light, which then dispersed and hovered in midair. As the light faded, 3 figures were revealed. Han Li looked over, his eyes narrowing slightly. Apart from Taoist Heshan, who was as massive as a mountain, there was Duan Renli holding a golden gourd, and beside him stood a short, bald old man dressed in black. Taoist Heshan, it seems you have joined forces with the Heavenly Ghost sect after all. That's rather unfortunate, Han Li said calmly. Fellow Taoist Han, this cannot be blamed on me, Taoist Heshan replied indifferently. You truly offended someone you should not have offended. I was left with no choice but to go along. It seems fellow Taoist Duan's involvement is not insignificant either, Han Li said, vaguely understanding something. His expression remained unchanged as he looked toward Duan Renli. Fellow Taoist Han possesses such strength. In the Spirit Ring realm, you could call the wind and summon the rain. If it were merely for 100 jin of Yin God Stone, how could our Heavenly Ghost sect start a war? The short, bald old man in black said with a forced smile, If my guess is correct, you must be the #1 cultivator of the Heavenly Ghost sect, fellow Taoist Dong, Han Li said, shifting his gaze to the old man. May I ask whom I have ultimately offended? To require all 3 of you to act together? If fellow Taoist Han is trying to buy time, I'm afraid you will be disappointed, came a cold response. Attack! Dong Ren shouted. Before his words had even finished, his sleeve already flicked outward. He raised a pitch-dark, ancient book, while his other hand pointed toward it. The book immediately began flipping rapidly with a rustling sound. Streams of gray-white light shot out from the pages and instantly transformed into strange birds with eagle heads and scorpion tails. Their bodies were 6 or 7 jang in size. In the blink of an eye, dozens of these strange birds appeared, spreading their wings and circling in the air. Fellow Taoist Han, you have offended someone, Taoist Heshan said. As he spoke, he casually raised his hand. A pale blue, round treasure flew out and flashed, before plunging into the gray clouds overhead. He then extended one finger toward the sky and focused his mind. A thunderous rumble erupted. The dense cloud layer immediately churned violently, releasing terrifying lightning. Thick gray-black bolts of lightning appeared within the clouds, inspiring extreme fear. Duan Renli muttered incantations. Golden runes swirled around the surface of the gourd in his hand, emitting shrill, whistling sounds. Hundreds of golden beans shot out from the gourd's mouth, each one transforming into a yellow-turbaned strongman upon landing. The 3 of them seemed to have coordinated beforehand and unleashed their methods simultaneously. Han Li did not stop moving. His gaze fixed briefly on the golden gourd, showing a hint of surprise. So the yellow-turbaned strongmen earlier had come from there. The thought only flashed through his mind for an instant. The next moment, his other hand trembled as dense fist shadows swept outward, blasting away the yellow-turbaned strongmen within several dozen jang. Then his figure leapt up and shot straight toward Duan Renli. Since the other party had gone to such lengths to trap him inside this cave-type treasure, they certainly had thorough preparations and would not rely solely on these superficial methods. He had to strike first. However, at this moment, the strange birds circling in midair swooped down. More than 10 of them spread their wings and dove toward Han Li. Before they even arrived, the scorpion tails on their backs shot forward. With a deafening boom, countless extremely fine black streaks poured down like a violent storm, engulfing Han Li below. Seeing this, Han Li lightly shook his shoulders. His figure vanished in a series of after-images, causing all the attacks from the strange birds to miss. As soon as he stabilized his body at a nearby spot, he swung his fist again, blasting 2 yellow-turbaned strongmen backward. Above him, the sound of tearing air rose once more. Dozens more strange birds charged down it. At the same time, a thunderclap resounded through the sky. A thick, brown-black lightning serpent descended from above with overwhelming momentum. Han Li frowned. Golden light flashed over his body as pale golden scales appeared, instantly covering him completely. He threw a punch upward. With a tremendous explosion, the brown-black lightning serpent shattered, bursting into dazzling brown-black lightning. Although Han Li's fist suffered no damage at all, his body was jolted backward by a step. Clang after clang rang out. The attacks from the scorpion tails of the strange birds struck the surface of his scales, causing black light to scatter in specks, yet leaving not a single mark behind. With a dull crash, one strange bird failed to retreat in time after its attack, and was casually struck by Han Li using a yellow-turbaned strongman. A terrifying brute force surged into the bird's body. It let out a shrill cry and shattered together with the strongman. Immediately afterward, a violent explosion echoed in midair. Dense brown-black lightning bolts rained down like a thunderstorm, tearing apart the gray space around them with earth-shaking force. The strange birds continued flying about in midair, occasionally launching attacks downward. Han Li's figure shifted constantly. He casually threw punches to shatter lightning bolts he could not evade, and from time to time, strange birds were knocked down. He handled everything with ease, but because of this, he was unable to make a move against Duan Renli for the time being. From the gourd, golden beans continued flying out endlessly. The rate at which the strongmen were destroyed slowed significantly. The number of yellow-turbaned strongmen around him kept increasing. After just a few breaths, their number suddenly reached 300 to 400. What made Han Li uneasy was that more than half of the yellow-turbaned strongmen on the outer perimeter were no longer rushing to attack him. Instead, they ran backward and suddenly stopped, standing perfectly still. A formation? Han Li's pupils constricted as the thought immediately arose. After a brief moment of thought, he changed his fist into a claw, grabbed a yellow-turbaned strongman, and hurled it toward the others. With a loud crash, the thrown strongman struck one of the motionless ones. A massive force exploded outward, forming an invisible shockwave that swept several yellow-turbaned puppets off their feet and sent them rolling across the ground. The sound of tearing air rose again. Han Li's figure flickered as both his hands moved rapidly, lifting and tossing one yellow-turbaned strongman after another. They traced arcs through the air as they flew toward the strongmen on the outer perimeter. As for the unavoidable brown-black lightning and the attacks from the strange birds, he did not bother to pay them any attention. In no more than 2 or 3 breaths of time, the outer army of yellow-turbaned strongmen was thrown into chaos, tumbling all over the ground and falling into disorder. "No more delay. End this quickly," Dong Ren shouted coldly, his expression darkening. As soon as he finished speaking, he flipped his hand and took out a black and gold token mottled with rust. With his other hand, he formed a strange spell seal and rapidly chanted. A dazzling golden light screen immediately appeared on the surface of the token. Han Li lifted his head slightly, his gaze suddenly tightening. Although he did not know what the token was, the moment the old man activated it, a trace of alarm abruptly rose in his heart. Before Han Li could act, the black and gold token in Dong Ren's hand shot out, transforming into a dazzling golden light screen that hovered above Han Li's head and spun continuously. Rings of strange black and gold runes lit up, forming a bizarre sight. Thousands of yellow-turbaned strongmen standing motionless on the outer perimeter suddenly raised both hands above their heads and pressed them together. Blazing golden light erupted from their bodies, rapidly gathering at their clasped hands before shooting upward. In the sky, the brilliant golden lights connected and spread, filling the surroundings and forming a massive light screen that enveloped an area of 1,000 jang around Han Li. The instant he was covered by the golden light screen, Han Li felt his body suddenly sink, as if an enormous mountain tens of thousands of zhang tall had crashed down on him. His body became incredibly heavy. At the same time, a series of popping sounds rang out within the area covered by the golden screen. From the ground below, strands of black and gold mist rose up, intertwining and forming thick black and gold ropes like living serpents that lunged toward him. They tightly wrapped around his body, binding even his arms and legs and preventing any movement. Han Li inwardly cursed. He frantically activated spell seals and drove the Lesser Northern Dipper star origin art to its limit. 6 blue lights flared on his chest, and abdomen as divine strength erupted from within. His body twisted violently, and his arms finally moved slightly. The black and gold ropes wrapped around him were stretched, taut, thinning, and trembling in several places. Although they still bound him, they could no longer completely restrain his movements. At the same time, Duan Renli, holding the golden gourd, had appeared above his head without him noticing, hovering motionless. Duan Renli opened his mouth and spat out several mouthfuls of blood, muttering low incantations. In midair, golden light on the surface of the gourd burst forth brilliantly, rapidly expanding in the wind until it grew as large as a room. The golden runes at the mouth of the gourd also enlarged to the size of palms, drifting and radiating dazzling golden light. Whoosh! Whoosh! Countless golden beans shot out from the gourd's mouth in a frenzied torrent, scattering wildly like the yellow river bursting its banks. The newly formed yellow-turbaned strongmen ran forward for a short distance, then stopped. They too raised both hands above their heads, clasped them together, and released dazzling golden light that merged into the golden light screen above. Dragged downward by the black and gold ropes, Han Li clenched his fists and continuously struck, blasting apart the strong men and strange birds in front of him. However, his movements gradually became slower. It seemed that with every additional strongman, another strand of light appeared in the screen above, and another strand of mist rose from the ground below. As a result, the black and gold mist on the ground grew thicker and denser, causing the ropes wrapped around his body to become increasingly thick and solid. Han Li felt his body grow unbearably heavy, as if both arms were lifting several massive mountains. Each movement became more difficult. The black and gold ropes tightened continuously, constricting his outer garments until long, narrow, deep grooves appeared. At this moment, golden light flashed around his body. He let out a low shout as strands of golden fur sprouted from his skin. In the blink of an eye, they transformed into golden hair, and his body began to expand wildly. He once again used the Thunder Awakening transformation, transforming into a mountain-like giant ape. Dong Ren and Taoist Heishan, witnessing this scene, were stunned. Although they had learned from Duan Renli that Han Li possessed such a strange secret technique, seeing it with their own eyes, they were still deeply shaken by the aura radiating from the giant ape's body. Taoist Heishan, why are you still standing there? Dong Ren shouted, snapping out of it. He withdrew the ancient book before him and then focused all his strength on driving the great formation below. Taoist Heishan immediately recovered his senses. He no longer urged the gray-black lightning. His expression turned solemn as he muttered incantations, both hands continuously forming spell seals. Suddenly, strange golden runes surged densely from his body, forming a massive layer of golden radiance around him. When Han Li transformed into the giant ape, the number of yellow-turbaned strongmen around him had already exceeded 10,000. Endless black and gold mist poured up from the ground, wrapping around the golden-haired giant ape. The ropes binding him grew even thicker and more solid, with no sign of breaking at all. A thunderous roar echoed to the heavens. Within the giant ape's body came a series of booming sounds as his muscles swelled. The golden fur across his body became like countless steel needles, incomparably hard. His figure expanded once more, doubling in size to more than 30 zhang tall. However, the black and gold ropes wrapped around him also flashed with golden light and rapidly thickened, becoming even more solid and resilient, still tightly binding him as before. At this moment, brilliant light suddenly flared from the giant ape's body. His figure rapidly shrank back down to less than 10 zhang tall. Almost simultaneously, the black and gold ropes changed as well, shrinking accordingly. No matter how the giant ape grew or shrank, the ropes adjusted perfectly, binding him tightly and preventing any escape, as if they were tailored precisely to him. Trying to escape now is nothing but wishful thinking. Duan Renli laughed loudly when he saw this. Taoist Heishan, if you still don't act now, then when will you? Dong Ren frowned and shouted toward Taoist Heishan in the distance. Taoist Heishan did not respond. He swung his yellow robe sleeve. A streak of golden light shot into the space above the golden-haired giant ape's head, where an ancient brown-green scroll appeared. Taoist Heishan pointed toward the scroll from afar and shouted sharply, "Activate!" The golden radiance around his body transformed into a golden rainbow that plunged into the ancient scroll. Green light flashed across the scroll, which shook a few times before unfurling with a flutter. A dazzling golden light lit up from the scroll's surface. A golden nascent soul phantom, about 5 or 6 kun tall, flew out. The tiny figure wore an official lotus crown and a yellow Taoist robe. Its aged face was calm and composed. Astonishingly, it closely resembled ancestor Tingming of Jingyuan Temple. At the same time, Taoist Heishan continued chanting. From the golden light within the scroll, ancient golden characters flew out continuously and rushed into the nascent soul phantom. The golden figure was instantly enveloped in golden light, then transformed into a gigantic golden sword more than 10 zhang long. The sword's body was densely engraved with strange golden runes. Rings of runes circled around it, emitting a terrifying aura. The moment the golden giant sword appeared, Dong Ren and Duan Renli could not help but glance at each other. They saw a trace of fear in each other's eyes. Han Li, transformed into the massive giant ape, raised his head and looked upward. Suddenly, he clenched both fists. 6 enormous blue lights on his chest and abdomen flared simultaneously. The muscles on his arms bulged violently as he used all his strength to draw them inward, preparing to face the incoming strike. Even as the black and gold ropes binding his arms burst with intense light, hard as divine steel and tightening relentlessly, his arms were still forced inch by inch toward his chest. "This is bad! Hurry!" Duan Renli shouted loudly. Dong Ren's face turned pale. His 10 fingers spun like wheels, rapidly striking out spell seals. In midair, the black and gold token rotated at an astonishing speed. Below, golden light blazed from the bodies of more than 10,000 yellow turban strongmen. The black and gold mist rising from the ground grew ever thicker, further tightening the ropes around the golden-haired giant ape with even greater force. The giant ape's body suddenly trembled. His arms, which had only just been drawn to his chest with great effort, were immediately dragged back again. "Finish the spell!" Daoist Hessian shouted loudly. The golden giant's sword in midair roared violently, transforming into a streak of golden light that slashed down toward the golden-haired giant ape's head. Boom, boom, boom! The golden sword ripped through layers of space itself, detonating thunderous explosions. In its wake, fine gray-white fractures spread across the void, accompanied by violent spatial turbulence. Within the area enveloped by the sword light, the space twisted and blurred, and even the clouds above deformed slightly. 2 or 3 strange birds flying in midair failed to escape in time and were instantly annihilated, turning into nothingness with shrill cries. The golden-haired giant ape, tightly bound by the black and gold ropes, could not dodge at all. At the critical moment, the giant ape suddenly raised his head and let out a deafening roar. Golden light burst forth across his entire body. Pale golden scales emerged all over him, and a blue horn suddenly grew from the center of his forehead. The instant the giant sword slashed down, the giant ape leaned back slightly and then slammed his head upward. A world-shaking explosion erupted. The tip of the golden giant sword struck directly against the blue horn on the giant ape's forehead. All the sword light erupted at once, exploding into a rain of golden light that scattered throughout the sky. The void shook violently, and more than 10 gray-white spatial cracks flickered into existence near the impact point. Within nearly 100 jang around the giant ape, the yellow turban strongmen could not withstand the shock and exploded one after another. The giant sword itself vibrated violently. A blazing arc of light burst out from within it, shot downward, then flew backward before collapsing completely. Meanwhile, the golden-haired giant ape's body merely swayed slightly before stabilizing again. There was not the slightest injury on him. How is this possible?" Daoist Hessian cried out involuntarily, his voice breaking. The faces of Dong Ren and Duan Renli were filled with shock. Their mouths hung open, completely speechless. In the sky, the golden light on the giant sword scattered as it flew backward, more than 100 jang, before finally stabilizing. Before Daoist Hessian could urge it again with spell seals, the runes on the sword's surface suddenly lit up one ring after another. Golden light surged once more as the giant sword charged at the giant ape again, its momentum even more violent than before. Because the number of yellow turban strongmen around had decreased, the pressure on the golden-haired giant ape was correspondingly reduced. The giant ape twisted its body, preparing to withstand the incoming sword. Suddenly, the giant ape inhaled deeply. Its chest swelled, blue light flared brilliantly in its eyes, and its mouth wide like a blood basin opened as it let out a world-shaking roar. With the naked eye, one could see a transparent ripple surge forth from its mouth, rolling upward violently like a meteor striking the earth. The ripple twisted the space above, forming a deep depression more than 10 jang wide and blurring the surrounding scenery. This roar was no ordinary sound. It was the Diamond Roar, a powerful sound-based divine ability unleashed by Han Li in his mountain giant ape form. With his current strength, its power was unimaginable, capable of shattering space itself. Boom! The giant sword, carrying the force of tens of thousands of tons, plunged into the transparent ripple but immediately slowed, unable to advance any further. Amid the roaring vibrations of the sound waves, ear-splitting creaks echoed through the air. The dazzling golden light on the giant sword fractured like shattered glass. The sword's surface bulged slightly, revealing the aged face of Daoist Tingming. Immediately after, countless cracks appeared across the sword's body. With a series of sharp bangs, the giant sword broke apart inch by inch, transforming into streaks of golden light that dissipated. Though it sounds lengthy, all of this happened in an instant. The nascent soul phantom of Daoist Tingming flashed out from the golden light and reappeared in midair. The glow on its body was noticeably dimmer, and its small face showed shock. The phantom immediately turned and flew toward the ancient scroll, hovering nearby, flashing once before vanishing into it. Almost simultaneously, between the brows of the giant ape, a narrow bloody fissure suddenly split open. A mass of black energy flew out and instantly transformed into a black eye, capable of piercing space itself, the annihilating Dharma Eye. From the dark pupil, a black beam shot out, flashing once before disappearing into the void. With a loud bang, the black beam suddenly reappeared at the location of the ancient scroll, piercing through space again and instantly appearing above the nascent soul phantom. The phantom let out a sharp scream and dissolved into a mass of golden light that scattered away. The scroll itself let out a crackling sound, then burst into blazing flames and rapidly turned into ashes. "It's the annihilating Dharma Eye," Dongren cried out in horror. The treasure bestowed by the immortal ancestor of Jingwan Temple had been shattered by Han Li's transformation in just a few exchanges. Even the trace of the ancestor's divine soul contained within it was destroyed. Dongren's face turned deathly pale. How can he even break instantaneous movement divine abilities? Taoist Hessian was utterly terrified. He no longer had the mind to worry about the treasure his ancestor had given him. His face turned ashen. At this moment, something even more shocking occurred. Silver light suddenly flared across the body of the giant ape. A massive silver flame erupted from its fur, engulfing its entire body. The black and gold ropes that seemed unbreakable were instantly set ablaze by the silver flames. Within the fire, the ropes melted and snapped one after another. The giant ape broke free of its restraints. It slammed both hands against its chest and rolled once in place. The silver flames vanished, replaced by countless arcs of silver lightning bursting outward. From within the crackling lightning, a massive silver bird more than 10 jang long suddenly spread its wings and took flight. Its feathers were hard as steel, and its talons sharp like hooks, looking exactly like the legendary True Spirit Thunder Rock. This was one of the 12 transformations of the Thunder Awakening transformation, the True Spirit Thunder Rock form. "Not good!" Dongren shouted hoarsely. He hastily formed spell seals. The black and gold token spun madly as black and gold mist once again surged up from the ground, trying to bind the Thunder Rock. Duan Renli also rapidly changed his spell seals. The golden gourd in midair continued spewing golden beans, transforming into yellow turbaned strongmen that lunged toward the Thunder Rock with terrifying momentum. However, the Thunder Rock merely flapped its wings once and transformed into a silver whirlwind, vanishing from its original position. Both the ropes and the strongmen lunged at empty space. Before the three Great Ascension cultivators could react, a streak of silver lightning suddenly appeared in the sky. The Thunder Rock's figure abruptly materialized above the golden gourd. Its talons flashed, and it snatched the gourd into its grasp. A burst of light flickered in midair. The Thunder Rock and the gourd shrank simultaneously. In the next instant, Han Li reappeared in human form, holding a golden gourd about 1 chi tall in his hand. Seeing this, Taoist Hessian's face turned completely despondent. He gritted his teeth and shouted, "We are no match for him. Run!" He transformed into a streak of light and fled into the distance. Dongren and Duan Renli dared not hesitate and immediately urged their escape techniques to follow. Abandoning the black and gold token in midair, Han Li glanced at the gourd in his hand. Blue light flashed from his palm as he pressed it against the surface of the gourd, causing the golden runes to blur. With a sweep of his hand, the runes dimmed completely and vanished. Almost simultaneously, all the yellow turbaned strongmen on the ground collapsed as if drained of strength. The golden light around them flickered, and they reverted into scattered golden beans strewn across the ground. The golden formation instantly collapsed and dissipated like smoke. Han Li flipped his hand and put away the gourd. He looked toward the three fleeing figures in the sky and let out a cold laugh. Silver lightning crackled across his body as he transformed once more into the Thunder Rock. With a single flap of his wings, he vanished from the spot. At this moment, Duan Renli was desperately fleeing. His throat felt dry, and bitterness filled his heart. Earlier, because he had controlled the gourd and the yellow turban Dao soldiers, his spiritual power had been severely depleted. Now his escape speed was clearly slower than that of Taoist Hessian and Dongren, and he had already fallen behind by some distance. He was silently lamenting when a faint crackling sound reached his ears. Realizing something, his heart plunged into icy terror, and his entire body went cold. Less than 100 zhang above his head, space suddenly rippled. From within streaks of silver lightning, a pair of enormous, razor-sharp talons tore through the void. Countless silver lightning arcs burst forth around them, gradually forming a massive circular lightning net that descended toward him. Duan Renli had reached the Great Ascension stage and was no ordinary cultivator. He had prepared for such a moment. A surge of blood-red light erupted from his body as he spat out a blood-red ancient banner a few kun tall. In an instant, it expanded into a large banner, more than a zhang tall. Blood-red light flowed across it as a foul. Bloody wind spread out, forming a mass of blood clouds that enveloped him. But before his figure could completely disappear, silver light above flashed violently. The Thunder Rock retracted its talons and plunged down like a falling meteor, instantly entering the blood cloud. A series of deafening explosions erupted within the cloud. Blood light and silver lightning intermingled and churned violently. A shrill scream rang out as the Thunder Rock tore the blood cloud cleanly in half and burst out from within. Within the pair of sharp talons was a man twisted like a wriggling maggot, struggling violently. His face was filled with extreme terror, black blood flowing from his 7 orifices, making him look utterly miserable. At this moment, the silver thunder rock suddenly opened its beak and spoke in a voice like rolling thunder. Duan Taoist, earlier Han had shown mercy because I did not wish to invite trouble. I never thought you would be so ignorant of your own limits. Since that is the case, do not blame me for being ruthless. After speaking, it clenched its talons tightly. Immediately, a blinding silver light flared within them, and countless bolts of lightning exploded with deafening force. Duan Renli let out a scream. Half of his body shattered within the silver lightning. Immediately afterward, a dark red miniature figure with a terrified expression flashed out from the ruined body and tried to flee. But before it could escape far, it was struck by a strand of silver lightning. In an instant, it turned into a wisp of green smoke. It did not even have time to let out a final cry before dissipating into nothingness. A great ascension cultivator of the spirit realm, who had called the winds and rains for countless years, was thus completely destroyed, his soul extinguished without leaving behind even the slightest trace. From the moment Han Li transformed into the Thunder Rock to the annihilation of Duan Renli, everything happened like lightning and sparks, only a matter of a few breaths. Dong Ren and Taoist Heshan clearly had no intention of rescuing their companion. By now, they had already fled far away, leaving no trace behind. In the Immortal realm, within Blackwater City, on the 3rd floor of a pavilion, Taoist Tingming and Boneflame Recluse were sitting together, drinking tea and chatting leisurely. Their conversation gradually turned to an exchange of cultivation insights. Just as the two were in high spirits, Taoist Tingming's face suddenly turned pale. He spat out a mouthful of blood, as if his vital essence had suffered serious damage. Taoist Tingming, what is wrong? Boneflame Recluse frowned and hurriedly asked. The Spirit Infant Sword Talisman I bestowed upon my subordinate has been destroyed. Taoist Tingming said grimly, enunciating each word heavily. That's impossible. How could this happen? The Spirit Infant Sword Talisman is equivalent to one of your full-strength attacks. Even I would not dare to face it head-on. Moreover, it was assisted by my yellow turban Dao soldiers. Could it really still fail to kill him? Boneflame Recluse's expression changed dramatically as well. Taoist Tingming's face looked extremely ugly, and he said nothing. Within the gray space, Dong Ren and Taoist Heshan transformed into 2 streaks of light, tearing through the void at full speed. With their cultivation levels, they had already fled more than 10,000 Li in an instant. Especially after Duan Renli's aura vanished abruptly, the two no longer cared about the cost to their vital essence, pushing their secret techniques to increase their escape speed. Their souls were shaken with terror. It had been a very long time since they had experienced such fear. After all, in the spirit realm, there were only a handful of cultivators whose strength could rival theirs, and those at such a level rarely fought each other recklessly. Taoist Heishan, hurry and cast the spell to open a spatial passage. If we do not leave now, the two of us will only have one path: death. Dong Ren shouted anxiously while glancing back. Taoist Heshan nodded. He lightly flicked his hand and took out a silver disc about the size of a palm. A flash of cyan light fell onto the silver disc as murmured incantations sounded. A streak of silvery white light immediately bloomed, gradually growing dazzling. Countless silver runes appeared alongside it. In the next moment, more than 10 vast silver currents surged forth simultaneously, converging in front of the two men and gradually forming a hazy pattern of silver light that radiated faint spatial fluctuations. Just at this moment, a muffled thunderclap echoed faintly from behind them. Hearing the sound, both men's faces instantly turned grim. They saw a single point of silver light flashing as it chased after them from behind. The point of light rapidly expanded, and its speed was terrifying. How much longer? Dongren shouted in a low voice. Less than 8 breaths, Taoist Heshan replied hurriedly, while continuously forming spell seals. I'll stop him. Hurry! Dong Ren decided instantly and gritted his teeth. After speaking, he began chanting incantations. At the same time, he tore open his robe, revealing his bare upper body. On his chest, there was a dark red tattoo of a demonic creature radiating blood-red light, flickering violently as if a ferocious living being were struggling beneath his skin. On the demonic tattoo, several white objects emitted faint white light, barely suppressing the surging blood-red radiance. Dong Ren took a deep breath and formed spell seals with both hands. He quickly pointed at the white objects one by one. Brilliant white light flared as strange runes shot out together, forming 13 white bone spikes. The moment the bone spikes were removed, the demonic tattoo roared excitedly, like a terrifying demon finally freed from its shackles. Dazzling blood-red light burst forth from Dongren's chest, enveloping his entire body and forming more than a dozen massive blood-red pillars of light. Terrifying power surged out, causing the surrounding space itself to ripple and distort. This marked the end of the episode. Everyone, Remember to like and subscribe to watch the following parts.